Hi, folks watching this video, and welcome to Let's Talk Careers. For those of you who don't know what this series is about, it's the purpose is to get to know people in certain roles on a more personal level, and how they got to where they're working and the careers that they chose. And to give information for those who might be thinking about getting into a career like that or changing the career that they're in, just give them a little bit more information. So today I want to welcome our guest, Tammy Hwang. Thank you so much, Tammy, for joining us today. Thank you for being our guest. And I guess we'll start off with tell me what you do for a living, Tammy.
Sure. Thank you so much for inviting me here, Catherine. I'm super excited to talk to you guys about what I do as a day job, but I also want to share with you what I do as a side hustle or my evening and weekends and that sort of thing. So by day, my Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, I work at the City of Hamilton at Invest in Hamilton, which is part of the City of Hamilton's economic development organization. So what that means is that think of us as like the salespeople for the City of Hamilton. We're actively out there talking to different companies to try and entice them to come to Hamilton to invest in Hamilton. And when they invest in Hamilton, we know that we're going to be generating jobs for them. We're also going to be generating more taxes from them. We're also going to be making our city a much more livable, workable kind of space. So when we talk about economic development, it's really looking at how do we get our employers integrated, but then also like if they're going to build like a big building, or if they're going to invest in a park, or if they're going to invest in infrastructure, how do we help them navigate all of the parts of City Hall to ensure that they get there? My evenings, weekends, holidays, any other time that I'm not working at the City of Hamilton, I actually work for, and I'm going to change my virtual background just so that I can show you guys. I have a small company called CoMotion on King.
Nice.
So it's this is a 10,000 square foot co-working space. And I am the CEO of CoMotion Group, where we are actively creating spaces that small businesses, entrepreneurs, solo entrepreneurs can come in and work. So that's my side hustle. So I spend a lot of time talking to entrepreneurs day in and day out. And I think a lot of it is that you have this ability to be able to create things, and then as well, you always see the art of the possible. So I'm an eternal optimist, and I spend a lot of time thinking about what could be. So I'm really excited to be able to chat with you, Catherine, about what's happening here in Hamilton, but also share with you some of the cool things that you might not have known about working for the City of Hamilton.
Awesome. So when did you start thinking about getting into the role?
I actually knew about it, but I didn't know that what was the way in, because I actually wasn't really aware that there was such a thing as being an economic development officer. So I first started out working for Innovation Factory here in Hamilton. They work with technology startups. So this is, I think, part of the reason why I became so interested in what's entrepreneurship, startup culture, technology startup companies. And that environment actually introduced me a lot to economic development. And in economic development, I always knew that cities needed a way to sell the city, but I didn't understand that this was a career path until I kind of like really got into the business of actual entrepreneurship. And when that happened, the City of Hamilton really started to understand that when we build our own companies, a lot of the times our own companies, like homegrown, from scratch companies, will take time to get from 1 person to 5 people to 10 people to 500 people. But if we look at it from an international perspective, how do we get international or even outside of Hamilton companies that come and invest in Hamilton? They come in and they're investing 300 jobs at once. So this is where we started to think about, okay, well, how do we go about supplementing and complementing our local businesses, by trying to attract international firms or firms from outside of Hamilton to come to Hamilton. So this was a very deliberate, strategic move by the city of Hamilton to look at investments in different key sectors as well. So we have on my team, we actually have sector specialists that are on advanced manufacturing. They might be in life sciences. And there's some in agri-food and food processing. So their jobs are actually looking at it from that sector development. So how do we get a cool advanced manufacturing company to come to Hamilton? So that's the beauty of this, is that we get a chance to go after very big or small companies, but the entire intent is for them to land in Hamilton, generate jobs, generate wealth for our Hamilton.
That's awesome. And I like that you say complement small businesses and businesses that are already in Hamilton. So it's not like bringing new businesses in to eliminate what's already, they're starting, beginning, establishing. So I like that word complement along with that.
Well, to tell you the truth, Hamilton's a pretty big city. We have over 550,000 people. It's a fairly large geographic region, but we don't have a lot of big business. Like, we don't have like the head offices of PayPal. We don't have the head offices of Facebook. What we do have is we have a lot of fantastic businesses. We're very diversified. So we don't have to worry about steel only. We have advanced manufacturing, we have hospitals, we have professional services, we are one of the most diversified economies in Canada. And I think that one of the things that we've done really well, especially in this pandemic, is because we've diversified our economy, not everybody has lost a job, if you know what I mean. Yes. So we definitely see from this pandemic that having tourism has suffered, food has suffered, anywhere you're having like congregations or people to people kind of meetings has suffered. However, we have seen a huge boom in advanced manufacturing, life sciences, because they've taken this and they've rejigged their businesses, and they've really figured out a way to actually get to be much more sustainable even in a pandemic. So that's what makes it all the more exciting for me as an economic development officer, is to help find other businesses that can help complement and supplement what's happening here in Hamilton. So that way we're not entirely dependent on one industry.
Exactly. That's awesome. So did you go to school to become an economic development officer?
Yeah, so like? I'm a math kid. So I'm a straight Hamiltonian.
Yep.
I'm a elementary, middle school, high school, and university in Hamilton. So, nice. So I'm a Hamiltonian. I went to Mac for commerce. But I think that in economic development doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a university graduate. We know that we have some of our colleagues that have college degrees, but the intent is also to make sure that you're understanding the basic principles of, say, business, economic development, economies, economic sort of large generalizations, but it's about a lot of this is from a business type background.
That's awesome. So is there anything specific in your job that you can say is your most favorite part of this job?
I think what I love is the fact that I love working for the city that I live in. And for me, it makes it so much more meaningful to wake up and say the things that I do directly contribute to how we make the city of Hamilton better. So I do, in terms of my day-to-day, I have a lot of meetings. And a lot of those times, think of it as, like I said, like the salesperson of the city of Hamilton. So I do spend a lot of time talking to other international firms, essentially talking to them about why they should invest here in Hamilton, what are some of the opportunities to invest. I talk a lot about Hamilton because I know a lot about what's happening at our colleges and our universities. I get what's happening in the marketplace. So I get to be a little bit of a generalist, sort of a mile wide, inch deep kind of a generalist about Hamilton. So it gets me really excited to be able to speak about some of the different developments and opportunities that are coming up. So for example, this morning I was talking about virtual tours, like how do we give a virtual tour about Hamilton, especially if we can't meet each other in person. So it gets me really excited about that.
Is there any little secret that you can, any beans you can spill, that's something that might be coming up that you can share?
Well, actually, no little beans, because there's like some really cool big things that are happening. You may have heard a couple of weeks ago that we scored Amazon. So Amazon is actually hosting one of 2 distribution facilities here in Hamilton. They'll be generating 1,500 jobs. Like, I think that this is going to be a pretty awesome and amazing thing. We have also secured some significant life sciences investments. So for some of our Hamiltonians that might have a life sciences spin, we have not only the hospitals, which is one of our biggest employers, but we also have new medical device companies, diagnostics, biomechanical. All of these are going to have every level of job possible. Everything from entry level all the way to senior management. So I think that there's real opportunity in the life sciences sector as well. So I'm super excited about that. We have also secured some advanced manufacturing companies. I can't talk about those just yet, but it's very exciting because they're also going to be looking for a really talented labor force, which I think PATH is going to have. So I think that this is a real opportunity to just stay tuned, because there's a lot going on right now.
That's awesome. Is there anything in the job that you can say you don't like, or maybe not your favorite part of the job?
I will say that being at home kind of sucks. As you can tell, I'm a pretty outgoing type of people loving kind of person. So this job is really great for someone like me, who's a big extrovert that likes to meet different people. So sometimes being at home, other than hanging out with my dog, Johnny, who's over there, you can't see him, but anyway.
Hi, Johnny.
Other than hanging out with my dog, Johnny, it's really hard not to be able to connect with my colleagues, with my clients. And, but right now, Zoom is one thing.
This is how we're living. This is the new way.
Exactly. But I also wanted to share with you about CoMotion Group. Because I think that as we're speaking about jobs and we're speaking about career paths, I also want to enforce, and I'm going to change my background again, so that way you can see that I'm physically changing hats. Where is this? Okay. There we go.
Nice space.
Thanks. So this is CoMotion. This is the lounge space at CoMotion, and we have a shared kitchen and all of that stuff.
I've been in that space.
Yeah,
I've done a talk in there.
Yes.
It's a beautiful space.
Thank you. So I wanted to be able to share with our audience too about entrepreneurship, because I think that people might see entrepreneurship as maybe a last effort, I suppose. So sometimes finding a job might be a little bit tougher, and they think, well, why don't I just start a company and all that stuff? So I want everybody to kind of encourage people to explore entrepreneurship as a viable career path. Because with entrepreneurship, yes, there's a lot more risk involved, because you're not going to get a pension, or you might not get benefits in the early days. However, as you build your business, there's a lot of resources that are available. CoMotion being one, but also we have access at the City of Hamilton in the Hamilton Business Center. If you're a woman, there is always the YWCA. They also have a really fantastic entrepreneurship program. We also have Innovation Factory, which is geared towards technology startups. So even though we're looking at, say, if you're interested in selling pizzas, for example, the Hamilton Business Center at City Hall will be able to help you with that. But if you're going to create a widget that's going to make software A talk to software B, then probably Innovation Factory will probably be best for you. Also, entrepreneurship is one of those areas where the government really wants to get people excited. There's a lot of resources available. You can access different funds and different loans in order to help you grow your business. For example, if you are under the age of 39, so younger entrepreneurs, there is a program called Futurepreneur. Futurepreneur is a loan program, but you will have access to almost $60,000 in startup capital as a loan. And they're also really fantastic when it comes to providing resources and mentors and also connections into other organizations. So it's just an example of one loan program that you can potentially tap into and access. If some of your path colleagues or clients are outside of Hamilton, they might be in the Haldeman region, like Caledonia. There's also another fund, that's the Community Futures Fund. That's also a really fantastic program. Unfortunately, you have to be outside of Hamilton, but it is a fantastic loan program as well.
That sounds awesome.
So I wanted to be able to open up some of your clients to the possibility of entrepreneurship. And really, in the early days, it's actually very easy. Business plan, minimum viable product, try to sell your product. If it doesn't work, back to the beginning. Business plan, minimum viable product, sell your product. And all of this happens with customer feedback, having real conversations with your customers, tweaking your product to fit, and ultimately trying to make a buck out of it. So in the early days, it's easy. It gets harder once you start making money, but it's really exciting. CoMotion's been around for 5 years now, which is surprising to me because, time flies. Really, time really does fly. So we're super excited about the possibility of what's happening. And surprisingly, the pandemic has opened up significant opportunities in entrepreneurship. Everything from personalized delivery to customized products to just convenience altogether. So I think that there's real opportunity even in the pandemic for entrepreneurship.
Yeah, that's awesome. So the CoMotion space itself, how would somebody, what does it look like? Does somebody rent a space there? They share the space? What does that look like?
So we actually have a bunch of different profiles that you guys can access. So if you're just even testing out and you want to try out the space, we have day passes. If you are trying to make a go of it and your first time into the entrepreneurship game, we also have that kind of starter pass, which will allow you, I think it's like $35 for the entire month to come in and use the space, but then access all of our resources. But all of these new, all of our prices and all of these promotions, we also have a bunch of promotions, mostly because of COVID and all that stuff, is on our website, www.commotiongroup, COMOTION group.ca. And you can kind of click around, kind of take a look. But if you're ever interested in coming by, welcome.
That's awesome. That sounds amazing. And we do have one of our employment specialists. She does a workshop on entrepreneurial. She does that on the side. So it's a great opportunity. Maybe it's another future webinar we can put together.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just because at the end of the day, I do believe that entrepreneurship is definitely a path for a career. And I think that there is always opportunity, and the things that you learn from being an entrepreneur are very transferable. Things like time management, people management, sales skills, but also operational skills, like even things like keeping track of your expenses. I think that those are all transferable to even a job in any of the job markets too, because those are things that are going to be very important to an employer. Thinking about how are you managing your time, how are you interacting with people, and how are you organizing your sort of workflow to make it work, right? So I think that those are all very transferable skills.
Yeah, and you show it works. You're doing it yourself. You have two hats, like you say, and your entrepreneurial is showing here as well as your job. So it's possible to have a career in a certain position and still find a passion that you focus on and maybe make it a small business on your own as well. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. And honestly, I have some amazing clients at CoMotion that are also following their passion. We have a client that loves playing Dungeons and Dragons, and he's made that into his own small business
Oh my goodness,
by
that's awesome.
hosting Dungeons and Dragons games. We can't do it right now because of COVID. However, he used to host like 25, 30 guys at CoMotion
Wow.
running Dungeons and Dragons, and that's his business.
That's amazing. Yep. So it pretty much anything can become a business if you put your mind to it and do a little bit of work and research. That's awesome.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. So is there any tips or advice you can give anyone who is thinking about getting into either of your business career roles?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is reach out and ask somebody for an introduction. Because in Hamilton, we're actually very friendly, and there's a lot of people that are very excited to have a virtual coffee with you. They're very willing to sit down and just like kind of talk about where their path has been and how they've and made some of the lessons they might have learned along the way. And as well, this is so true when the path team talks about, say, hidden marketplaces, like hidden jobs, hidden marketplaces, because that's where, as you develop your own sort of persona, reputation, a lot of it has to do with who you've been talking to, because it's a lot of the times hard for, say, somebody to understand your work ethic if you haven't actually connected with them and talked to them about your experience and some of the things that you've done. So it's not, networking is not a scary term. And I feel that a lot of people are very wary of that networking aspect of it, but really it's about marketing yourself in a highly personalized and customized way. And you can do that with your resume, definitely. But sometimes a resume is really hard to get the full sense of what the person is like. So my tip is to kind of put yourself out there, pump your personal network, because as you might not realize that your uncle's best friend's daughter might be looking for somebody. So it's definitely a way for you to continually grow yourself, and by finding opportunities through networking. And also through networking, you're going to understand different jobs that you might not have ever considered before. That's just like how I said about economic development. I was working in a totally different area, technology and entrepreneurship and startups, but now I'm selling the city in economic development and working for the city of Hamilton. So it makes sense, that move, but at the same time, I would never have thought about this 5, 7 years ago. So that's the idea that I really want to relay to everybody, is that it's really about talking to people and getting to know what other people are working on, and as well being able to find out the opportunities through the hidden job market.
It's great advice. And that's something that I find everyone I speak to is telling me, don't be afraid to reach out. Reach out, ask questions, look for some mentors, look for some advice. So many people are willing, and I think that's one positive thing with the pandemic, with all the virtual things that we're doing. People aren't saying no because people want that. That's the only connection that they're getting. So people are okay to have the conversations and the emails and then the Zoom calls and that those things. They're welcoming them because that's their interaction right now. So I think it's one small positive in this, that people are gathering information in places that they probably would never look before and finding paths that they didn't know they could take. So it's pretty exciting.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And as well, I think it's also a modicum of etiquette as well. So ensuring that if you are reaching out for a call, a virtual coffee, that you're not totally monopolizing their time, that you're sticking to a very set time frame. So if you've asked for 30 minutes, stay with 30 minutes, because that's just showing respect to who you're asking for that information.
Absolutely.
And then it's also ensuring that we're we're being mindful of them out of their goodness of their hearts, sharing their network, sharing their knowledge with you. So it's just, those are the things that I also want to impress upon everyone that's watching and listening this as well.
Great housekeeping rules. Absolutely. That's good advice. And thank you, Tammy, for your passion for the city and everything you're doing. And I think you're a great salesperson for the city. I know you personally and everything you do, and it's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And
thank you so much for having me.
No
and
problem.
I love the path, guys. Your team is awesome. So thank you so much.
Okay, take care. Thank you so much, Tammy.